Well, I've been 4 days in Australia, and apart from the country that's really wowed me, it's the car. This ML350 has been absolutely wonderful. There's something wondrous about watching the world go by through your windscreen. Driving in the land down under on a journey from Sydney to Melbourne, it had endorsed the fact for me even more. Australia offers a thrill around every corner. Natural beauty, wildlife, the oceans or the mountain, it has it all. And ensconced behind the wheel of my cushy ML350, driving into Melbourne, I thought how fast 4 days had flown by and what a journey it had been. It felt like just yesterday that I'd arrived in Sydney. In Australia, it's mandatory for everyone to wear their seat belts, front or back. And if the rear passengers aren't wearing their seat belts and you get caught, it's your fine. Strapped in, we all set off to Blues Point in Sydney, where it feels like past meets the present. Set against the backdrop of a stunning view of the harbour bridge with the world-famous Opera House tucked under its arch, gulls floating around, ferries buzzing, and the Luna Park with its Ferris wheel and merry-go-rounds around the corner of this little cove, it feels so far removed from the city and yet just there. The perfect place to start the journey. The ML, which had felt like the big fat bully out on the road, suddenly looked small and diminutive, parked against that postcard-like picture. Douglas, our guide for the trip, with her thick Australian accent and a penchant for saying "right," was a treasure trove of information. Sydney is a bustling city, and being there on Easter weekend, we caught it in a holiday mood. Without the weekday traffic, we navigated through the town, starting with Paddington, where each house is a little gem. Balconies with really interesting iron balustrades lined every street, and my camera shutter was clicking away through the window. It's interesting for those who like art, but if it's the tourist trail, you have to drive around Macquarie Street, where the sandstone structures are imposing and grand. It houses the hospital, the parliament, and the botanical gardens. From Macquarie, a trip to the Rocks is a must. It was called the Rocks as it was a large cliff face when Captain Cook first saw it. But is home to a curious little street market where artisans sell their locally made knitter-natter.
The market started in 1991.
Okay.
They basically, it was initially a sort of a more an artisan market. They had furniture and they had entertainment every weekend. And they do still have that, but it's expanded a lot more.
Prices in the street market were slowly making me realize how the dollar that had gone up in Australia was making everything very expensive, including just a bottle of water. After a lovely morning of seeing the city, I've got some scrumptious seafood lunch and I'm just dying to dig into it. Lunch against the setting of a great view of the harbour bridge, Opera House and the sunshine and the sea, with a massive platter of every conceivable kind of seafood, was just perfect. And of course, it was polished off in no time at all. We had a lot of driving to do and a tight itinerary. We set off towards Jervis Bay. En route to Jervis Bay, a stop at Boral is a must for any cricket enthusiast.
Well, I'm sure most people are going to be laughing at that kind of stroke, but just being here on the ground that Sir Donald Bradman grew up, played cricket and got recognised and has got me to get a bat in my hand. And if you're half as cricket crazy as any of the Indian nation, this place, Boral, is a place you have to visit. It's on the Sydney-Canberra route. It's got the Cricket Hall of Fame. This museum is dedicated to Sir Donald Bradman. His house is across the road. This is where he learned to play cricket, and his ashes are here as well. Apart from that, there's loads of cricket history you can enjoy.
Well, I am a bit of a cricket fan, but a true one should set aside a good couple of hours for this place. For me, the road junkie, the tarmac was beckoning. The road from Boral to Jervis Bay is just splendid, with undulations and switchbacks and some pretty diverse countryside, with pastures and meadows on one hand and hills and forest on the other, which finally broke out onto the shoreline in Jervis Bay. An action-packed day ended in a hearty meal out by the sea with stories to share. Waking up in the morning and looking out at the ocean as the sun came up, it looked like a sheet of glass, perfectly calm. And in the serenity of Jervis Bay, it struck me that in a matter of about 24 hours, I was so far removed from the shrieking horns and high decibels of Mumbai. The area is humongous and home to a stretch of about 26 kilometers of pristine white sand beach. From Huskisson Park Hotel where we stayed, you can see an entire 7-kilometer stretch arc right across, almost seeming to kiss the horizon at one end. Matt of Dolphin Watch Cruises was all ready with his boat to take us around Jervis Bay. It was going to be a glorious day for a bit of dolphin spotting, and for some time we ditched the ML to get onto a boat.
It's a really lovely morning out here in Jervis Bay. Great day to be out on a boat, and that's exactly what we're doing. Off to watch the dolphins, go to see some great beaches, and just explore the area around Jervis Bay.
Once we saw the first fin dance out of the water and swoop back, there was much excitement on our boat, with all of us swinging from side to side trying to get close to the dolphins and catch that perfect shot. We had been told to be patient and that it would take us time as one had to find dolphins in the vast bay. But the dolphins of Jervis Bay had decided to throw us a party. They were playing on the tail surf and swimming under and across the boat in 2s and 3s, and it was just a magical sight.
We're very lucky in Jervis Bay. We have over 100 dolphins that live in Jervis Bay every day. Summer, winter, morning, afternoon, it does not matter. The dolphins live in Jervis Bay every day.
The drive with the winding highway was lovely, and on it I got thinking to myself that I could literally count on my fingers the number of cars I had to pass or that had passed me. I had probably seen 4 cars in 2 hours. It was like having the road all to myself. And it gave me time to get acquainted with my ML 350.
The 350's got a nice, torquey, peppy engine. So, whenever you put your foot down, there's always enough power to pull you along. But you never really need it in Australia because they're really tough on the speed limits here. most of the secondary roads that we've been taking, 100 is the speed limit, and you know, it seems a little bit slow in this car and you're just itching to go faster and you can't.
The catch is that Aussies are dead strict about speeding, so you have to keep watching out for the signs and keep one eye on your odo to make sure you drop down where needed. We were warned any speeding fines and we'd be paying, so as a result, it was not the plush interior, the punchy engine or the comfortable ride that I enjoyed the most.
So, you know what's really been my faithful companion on this journey has been the Distronic Plus. What you do, press the lever, set it at 100, and then it just keeps the distance to the car in front of me. So if there's space, it will go as fast as it can till 100 kilometers an hour. And if there isn't and the car in front of me is going slower, it will brake and keep the distance to the car in front of me. So it makes driving really, really easy.
Despite the ridiculously slow limit, with an empty road, the miles fly by and Pebbly Beach came up soon enough. It's not like we hadn't seen the ocean, but every time the view is so different, it makes you catch your breath. Doug had promised to show me the kangaroos, and she came true. Sure enough, we found not one, not two, but a mob of them on a grassy knoll, having their afternoon siesta under the shade of the trees. At first I clicked away excited at seeing my first live kangaroos. And then of course I thought, what's a kangaroo lying down? I needed to see them hop. And I had to work hard to get them out of their slumber.
He's refusing to hop. Come on. There you go.
On the other side, there was a mummy with a baby in her pouch, just too lazy to move. What a day this was turning out to be. Dolphins in the morning, kangaroos in the afternoon, and each one just a short drive from the other. As I was walking to the parking lot, I had one more brush with Australian wildlife, the famous Rosella parrot in all its red and blue glory, right there, just about 2 feet away from me. Still digesting the day's delights, I headed off to Tilba, a sacred place to the Aborigines. The drive was once again spectacular in its variation. Tilba was a quaint little village that looked out of a century long forgotten. Everything in Tilba has to be kept as it originally was, and even the houses are still painted in their merry old colours. This charming little village has a calm and serenity to it that makes time stand still. Here I learned that in Aboriginal law, all places are male or female, and the Gulaga rocks that form the backdrop to Tilba were female. With just the sound of the birds chirping and the wind rustling through the trees, the backdrop of Mount Dromedary and the volcanic Gulaga rocks, the sun set on our day. It had been a sensational day and was topped off by a spectacular meal in Bega at a lovely little fine dining restaurant called Zanzibar. Food was sumptuous and the owners warm and friendly. Definitely worth a stopover if you're passing by.
Last night we drove into Eden when it was dark. Didn't quite see how beautiful it was over here. Come down to the wharf for breakfast. It's a lovely little place. And it's not the correct season, but if you want to do whale watching, this is the place to come.
Eden is a small little town that's charming and offers yet more stunning views of the ocean. And after a short look around, we set off, because the day's agenda was a long, long drive. 546 kilometers to cover. Australia holds a surprise around each corner, and each location has its own unique character, so long distances fly by. But what really frustrates you most on a long journey is those speed limits. They are designed to put you to sleep. For those that do feel the eyelids getting heavy, watch out for the funny road signs that keep reminding you to stay awake. The ML350 is a great cruising companion, and with the uber comfortable and luxurious car, the miles we munched didn't feel like so many.
Everything in this car is so convenient. There's so much storage space all around you. It's a really great travel car. There's lots of places to tuck everything into, little brochures, your phones.
We did pretty well, covering the 546 kilometers with just one photo stop and a coffee when we entered the state of Victoria.
Beautiful view of the ocean. Now we're in Gippsland with the lakes. It's so interesting, you can't get bored of being on the road here.
Back on the road, we drove non-stop to make it on time for the Penguin Parade at Phillip Island. These little creatures are only about a foot tall. Watching them toil up that hill, waddling away, stopping every now and then to catch their breaths is actually quite fun. It's an amazing sight to see hordes of them come out of the sea and walk up to their homes. They do it in the dark to avoid predators and stay in groups to protect themselves. But they're no real predators is what the ranger told us. It's a habit that's just years old. Last count, this place had 32,000 penguins. Roads, fabulous views, wildlife and great food to end the day. What more could one ask out of life? 3 days into this trip and Australia had pretty much won me over.
Big, fat, yummy breakfast.
The morning at Phillip Island was spent eating a sumptuous breakfast at Mad Cows. Yup, you heard it right. Cows, spelled C-O-W-E-S, comes from the name of the town. But the Aussies, I've realized, have a penchant for funny names and odd descriptions. Here are a few we saw along the way. That huge breakfast we'd had at Mad Cows was soon turning somersaults in my stomach in a V10 R8 doing hot laps around the Phillip Island racetrack. My stomach wasn't happy, but my brain was having a blast. The Phillip Island circuit, home to the MotoGP, is fast and flowing with just 2 tight corners, and Garth, the driver, was going flat out.
Down this straight here we're getting up to 265 kilometres an hour, and through turn 1 about 170 k's, and one of the faster corners, the fastest corner on the track, we were 200 kilometres an hour through there. So it's quite good. The track's in perfect condition. It's very. We've just resurfaced it in December, so it's fantastic. It's really good.
From an adrenaline-pumping R8 to sleepy, lazy koala bears is quite a jump. But that's the diversity of Australia. You can pack in so many different things into just a day.
Here at the Phillip Island Koala Conservation Centre, koalas are pretty much out in their own natural terrain in the wild, and we have these platforms that are built around so we can get up close to them. It's not like a zoo where animals are brought to us, but more like we're going into their terrain and watching them up close. Well, all I can say is the koalas have a bloody good life. They sleep for 20 hours a day and eat for the other 4. It's a great way to live.
These small furry creatures look incredibly cute and cuddly, but don't ever try to hug one, cause they just don't like contact, which is why they stay so high up in the trees and they get aggressive if people get close to them. The koala sanctuary has lovely walks and nature lovers can spend a couple of hours spotting some birds too.
This is what the koalas are feeding on. Looks quite different from our eucalyptus trees back home, where they're just tall and much straighter. But yes, it is eucalyptus. It smells like that.
The things to do on my bucket list were getting crossed off at an amazing pace in Australia. And being in a chocolate factory was a childhood dream come true. I was living the life of Willy Wonka. I learned about chocolate making from picking the right cocoa pods, purple ones I'm told, to shelling the nuts, to expose the nibs, roasting them, and then grinding to get the paste. Extracting the cocoa butter and tempering the chocolate after mixing the ingredients completes the procedure. The chocolate jokes were my favorite displays, and of course the one where I got to make my own little shape and eat it. Time had come to leave the fun Phillip Island and head to Melbourne. But we couldn't leave without visiting Nobbies. 1.5 kilometers offshore, the Nobbies are seal rocks, home to Australia's largest fur seal colony.
They say that driving at dawn or dusk in Australia, you have to be a little careful because the kangaroos tend to really come across the roads and come outside. And Douglas was telling me that sometimes they just hop right through the windscreen, the larger fellows out in the bush, which can be quite dangerous.
The drive from Phillip Island to Melbourne is short, and my time with my trusty travel companion was coming to an end, and it got me thinking.
Well, this ML 350 has been absolutely wonderful. We've done over about 1,000 kilometers now, and faultless. Apart from that, I've been getting a lot of eyes, envious eyes looking at me. Every time we roll into a parking lot, all the guys look at me and smile and say, "Is that your car?" And I'm enjoying saying yes.
Coming into Melbourne is like any city in the world, and you can see the traffic build up and the high-rises grow around you. It's hugely different from Sydney. While Sydney had a lovely laid-back feel, Melbourne felt very different. It's a bustling city, packed with fitness freaks, judging by what we saw. Flinders Street Station is one of the oldest buildings and a landmark in Melbourne. It looks oddly out of place juxtaposed against all the glass skyscrapers around it. As we drove by and into the hotel, I reflected on the wonderful drive down the eastern seaboard of Australia. Australia is like a novel that keeps you entrapped in its pages. Each day is like turning to a new page. Each page you turn has a new and unique story to tell. And when you do come to the last, it's with heavy heart that you close the book. The story, with all its drama and excitement, however, is one that remains with you for a lifetime. Well, what can I say? Australia is a country you just have to see.